Welcome back, everybody, to the Valorant First Strike UMG Close Qualifiers. About to have map number 2 between T1 and FaZe. We just witnessed Ascent 14-12. Went to overtime. FaZe able to close it out in the end. A lot to break down here, so let's get it started. I'm Taylor Reflections Noble, joined by Bach and Vansili. Bach, we'll start with you. We knew Baby Bay had been inconsistent, but at least this game, he managed to find it. 10 toes down, the man popped off, went insane, ended up finishing off 31-16.
Yeah, solid performance from Baby Bay, a player that we were kind of worried about. When we watched him, especially on this map, on the attacking side with an AWP, he was a little bit disappointing. Just couldn't really seem to hit his stride. That was not the case here. If you actually watch like the first 5 rounds, I think he was like 9-1. He was crushing them so badly. Yep. And it wasn't even just with an AWP. I remember looking back at, what was it, the second or third round, a stinger, when he just flew into that B site and completely overwhelmed T1. And kept themselves alive. And it was mostly with big brain plays like the 1v1 you just saw where Daze was inside Wine Cellar. But they had themselves in position to close out the game and they couldn't quite capitalize. This round was peculiar as well, where you had Baby Bay inside that smoke with a shotgun. Skadoodle gets TK'd by Dazed. It definitely didn't feel like it was a flawless or perfect game from either team. I felt like FaZe really relied on individual skill, whereas T1 did lean on the team a bit harder. But the team play from T1 at times was just a little awkward.
Yeah, I think not only should we praise the individual play of players like Baby Bay and even Corey on that first map. I think what I really liked from FaZe, looking at their defender side, was that they were okay fighting back versus T1, and the long range battles on mid side, knowing that T1 likes to take mid control. The amount of times that Corey came out and doubled up with or Baby Bay or Zachary to open up those sides, and also double pushes from Corey and from Zachary at B main to actually shut down Brax. So they read T1 like a book on the attack. They knew it was going to be slow. They knew it was going to be methodical. Sometimes they're going to go towards mid. Sometimes they're going to go towards B. And you saw that pressure coming in from that side that came positive for FaZe every time.
Yeah, you know, I was looking at the very beginning. Obviously, it was huge that FaZe was able to come out as hard as they did. You mentioned a stinger, right? Going big for Baby Bay. He picks up the AWP. After that, right, it was just a huge advantage. Then we see the first AWP battle between Baby Bay, you know, kind of come through along with the side of the T1 boys, you know, Skadoodle, and it obviously went to the way of Baby Bay. He was just doing everything right. But as you said, Bach, it started to shift, right? Because we see this massive lead, 7-1 for FaZe, and all of a sudden, respectively, 9 rounds go, and then FaZe is only able to, or 10 rounds go. Obviously, FaZe only wins 1 of those. T1 able to win 9 of those, a huge shift in momentum. It was a big one. Why were they able to clean it up so well then, but still fall so short in the overtime?
Again, it was just some sloppy play at times from T1, just a few mistakes that cost them that lead and ended up seeing us go into overtime in the first place. And that's what ended up costing them the win in overtime. We saw them surrendering so many opening picks to FaZe constantly throughout this series. FaZe got an opening pick, and sometimes it was like 20 or 30 seconds into the round. And that's against a team like T1, who's notorious for these slow executes. They should not be losing those players. And not only that, when you're a team who wants to go as a team late into a site, you want all your utility available, or as much as you've got left. So losing even one player can drastically impact the way you plan to go for your site takes. And I feel like it just kind of flattened things out for T1 to a certain extent. And if we're going to see T1 bounce back in the series, they need to be a little bit more careful in the early game if they're going to try and play for that late game strategy. It's fine to lose a player in the early round if you're playing a fast play. Like, it's fine to lose a player on a rush into an A site. It's different when you have a player dying on a lurk and the rest of your team's just waiting for the call from the IGL to go for the execute.
There's been multiple times as well for T1, we were watching them yesterday play on Ascent, was that Spider popped off too. There were a lot of rounds where he had 3 kills, 2 kills, and it was also on the back of retakes. So whenever T1 had that game plan of playing sites maybe a bit more passively on the A, and they're comfortable of retaking that site, how many times did we see FaZe actually just have Baby Bay dash into the site as well, and just play post-plant positions where Spider is not allowed to go for those retakes because he's actually the first one to die inside the site too. There was probably some bad positionings from Spider at that end at the A side from time to time, but overall, they didn't allow T1 to have that many retake plays on their end. So I got to give props to FaZe on how they played those post plans.
Yeah, I mean, Bach said it perfectly. T1 is a much slower team. And you also mentioned, those early picks. Just to point that out, first and foremost, first bloods are incredibly important across any esport, right? Especially here whenever you bring it down to a 5v4 early on. 17 first bloods for FaZe throughout that entire series. I know 8 of those specifically came from Baby Bay, obviously, him rocking the op and him having those quick, aggressive pushes in along with his, Blade Storm. He was putting in great work, right? Those early picks are definitely going to devastate T1 because, look, you lose a member, all of a sudden now it's like, do we want to continue to commit on site? Do we need to rotate through? If we rotate, are we going to be able to get spiked down? We're going against, an opponent who might already be set up for that rotation, right? So many uncertainties that T1 is going to have to get through. We came into this thinking that maybe, FaZe made a mistake in a way, going with a sense, but clearly they didn't. They were able to clean it up and do it very well. Albeit, like, I agree with you, Bach. There was a lot of sloppy plays, even for Baby Bay, right? Dashing out onto B with the judge and then challenging across the CT. I was like, it didn't make sense to me.
I mean, to be fair, at that point, you're feeling it. So you're just going to take every risk you can. I mean, he's flying into sight, not necessarily knowing where that player is going to be, and he's hoping he can get a closer battle potentially. And how many times did Baby Bay fly onto that A site and it worked out well for him? If you actually look, we're talking about the first kills. If you look at the first deaths, I believe Skadoodle was on the receiving end of almost
I was going to say,
first bloods from Baby Bay. So Baby Bay had 8 first bloods, and Skadoodle had 6 first deaths.
Correct.
That's a telling sign as to why things went the way that they did. One of the reasons that T1 looked so good yesterday, and Silly mentioned, like, Spider looked really good when they played yesterday and has looked good at times today, but Skadoodle was a huge piece of the way that T1 played over the last couple of days. So for him to fall flat and finish at 13 and 18, that's a disappointing performance from someone you would expect to see at the top of the scoreboard.
And looking at a duelist from a duelist perspective, having the amount of first deaths, if you have the highest for your team, I think it's okay, because that means you're trying to do your job. You're trying to move in. You're trying to be the one that is able to turn around over for your team because you have the kit necessary to be able to get the first kills. And then if you die in the process, at least you took one down with you, sorry. So Skadoodle had 6 first deaths. He had 4 first bloods. And I think most of those happened on the defender side. But when you looked at Baby Bay, he had 0 first deaths with 8 first kills. So not only was he good at actually entering to the sites, he was actually able to allow his teammates to get in on behind. So you saw how explosive FaZe was going onto the attacker side as a group, and as a unit, you still had Baby Bay stay alive for quite a while to be able to get those kills and bring those rounds over for the team. So I really like that from FaZe. It was beautiful to see.
And just real quick before we send it to Matt, Vince, I got to ask you, we're going into bind. This is an opportunity now for T1 to kind of flex their muscles, if you will, with Spider. Traditionally an Omen. Now he has been switching up as of recently to a duelist. How much of an impact do you think that could have versus FaZe here?
I think that's going to be a big impact. A lot of the people in the community want to see Spider play as a duelist, and on this map he usually goes as that Raze. So it's going to be nice to see if Corey's going to play a Raze as well. It's going to be a nice Raze versus Raze. And what I do like about T1 overall, though, is that they started adding a little bit more pressure on extremities and using more of their abilities in their kits. And you saw that on Ascent too, like the duels that they have from like I said, the fault line to the shock darts or the flashpoint to the knives to get information. They're actually using that kit very well and using it with a great synergy for the whole roster. So to be able to take that on the attacker side so that they can pressure like they did before on sections like the showers of Bind, I think that's going to be great. But they also have to be careful of how FaZe also likes to play hookah. If they don't get any pressure, they're going to start pushing that, and they know the attack will be coming towards the A side.
Well, all right, boys. Hey, look, check this out. I'm still going T1, but FaZe up because apparently they're playing well. Let's send it into Bind. T1 versus FaZe. Take it away.
I'm not going to pretend I can do that. My knuckles I end up just going like this, and I'm like, is this right? One of the things that's going to be difficult for FaZe here is the fact that T1 is very, very proficient on Bind. If you actually look at their history throughout both the UMG close qualifier and the Nerd Street Gamers close qualifier, they only lost Bind 1 time, and it was to complexity of all teams in overtime. Actually, it was, I think, triple overtime. So it's not exactly crazy to think that they could pick up a win here, especially when you look at their pedigree, beating Cloud9, Immortals, Dignitas, Sentinels, and Equinox in recent history. We'll see if that's going to, in fact, be the case. They're desperately going to need Skadoodle to wake up and shake off that first game. It wasn't the worst performance we've ever seen, but it wasn't ideal. And here's FaZe doing what FaZe does, that aggressive style of play. This time they do get caught, though, as it looks like T1 has done their homework and was prepared with the camera in place just in case that was the fact.
You already had them at spawn too, right? You saw Skadoodle and Brax at the spawn, not leaving that area, trying to surprise them by giving them market for FaZe, and then they could maybe battle it back. But FaZe had 3 players push down Hookah with frenzies ready to go. So like I said, if they're not being battled, if they don't have any pressure onto Hookah, they're okay with pushing all the way down and trying to go for the flank. And with that, though, that camera forced them back, forced them out of position, and look at how passively they're playing now, which allows T1 to take control of Hookah, and they're going to try to explode into the site now.
Here they go out onto the site. Corey's nade does enough damage to take out Spider. Skadoodle with the quick shots coming out from the Classic has to be careful as Baby Bay was still on site with a frenzy. Now the Boombot's going back and forth, patrolling the area, looking for targets, not gonna find
30
any.
seconds left.
Dazed inside Hookah, working with Brax as well. And it's come down to the 2-on-2. You can see Marv just slowly sneaking in. The Classic burst, not exactly what Brax needed in that moment. The Shadow Step allows Marv to get away, and Raucus pistol and can try to continue where they left off at map number 1. And it was a team ace.
Yeah, definitely give it to Corey, the way that he was able to dance behind the cloud burst that was set by Skadoodle. The idea there, cloud burst, dash in from Hookah, and try to fight it back, but as you couldn't connect onto the kills, Corey was just dancing around and able to get the kill onto Spider too, and just wasted time to allow his teammates to rotate over. Not only that, the person that was stuck inside Elbow just stuck his ground there. He just wanted to keep Brax busy into Hookah so that it was easier for Marv to make it out of spawn, and then to get the kill. And actually, sorry, it was Daze that was in Hookah, so they kept him close and tight in there too. So FaZe Clan just played that nice.
T1 working with some pistols. And there's the Owl drone looking to spot Brax. Brax is gonna hide in this corner and hope. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. The dart doesn't come through, but the position's spotted out regardless. And Brax is down to 8 HP as he tries to happening. Baby Bay getting close to that portal. He's playing off the portal, so if he has to, he can dive through. There you go. Dash across. Great movement from Baby Bay, but the spike is still moving towards A. You can see there was a player out on site. It was Spider who tried to escape the showers. Dazed is on the other side of a dark cover, watching burst after burst go into the wall, but dodging the damage for the time being.
Just unfortunate for Brax in his position. He was really counting on AZK to try to break that Owl drone. You saw the amount of times that was shot but not broken. And speaking about shot, there's someone that got shocked.
30 seconds
and that was courtesy of Daze. They are able to make it into the site. You have to try to shadow step through, but you kind of wish it was Daze that had that spike to try to at least put some credits into the bank for T1, but it does not happen as FaZe Clan puts 2 rounds in a row.
Here comes the buy from T1, though. Look at the purchase on the other end. SMGs. Pretty much across the board. Corey's the only one who's rocking a Vandal. I will say, even though I like a Raze here versus a Reyna, I feel like that's a better play. I do miss Corey on the Reyna. I feel like it's something that Corey plays really well, and it's kind of funny to watch Reyna now sneaking into competitive play, because I'd say, like, what, the week after Reyna's release, everyone was like, okay, that's enough. Like, there really wasn't anyone that cared to see it played, but we've seen Reyna slip its way into competitive meta, as has often been the case with some of the agents in the game. Even like Jett in the early stages when we were all kind of mocking Jett's usefulness. A large part of that was some changes that came through from Riot, but still. The 5-on-4 FaZe do have a player advantage. No Cypher currently alive, and now they lose their Jett. Skadoodle currently sitting in purgatory, waiting for the round to end. Dazed does at least pick off one, but Baby Bay is there with a double up on the response. That's 3 now on the round for Baby Bay. Spider all alone. Spike is down in possession of Baby Bay, who wanted to go for an even more impressive 4K. Couldn't quite finish off Spider, who's now sitting on low HP. But it's a 1-on-3 with 30 seconds left.
30
Not really many
seconds left.
options here for Spider.
That's it. Ruckus picks up the last kill quite easily. Even on top of that, you had the flank coming in from Marv eventually. So the pressure to fight back for FaZe, Baby Bay continue to press charge, press forward. Like, how ballsy is that to just continue to run forward and pick up a gun in a cloud burst when there's enemies just around the corner and still manage to fall back and add another kill to the tally later on that fountain side. So I think right now FaZe is one of those strats where it's, hey, let's just activate Baby Bay, kind of like saying, Sean, go kill for Gen G, Tens, go kill for Gen G, Baby Bay, go kill for FaZe, and he's getting the job done. Yep.
Pickoff coming
kills.
in from Baby Bay. Like you mentioned, Baby Bay now hunting down the ace, and you know he wants it. Gets caught off guard. Doesn't matter. That's 4 now on the round for Baby Bay, who's looking for the eco round ace. Can't quite get it. Spider says, no, I'm not letting this happen. Now, this is exactly the start we saw from FaZe in map 1. We saw this quick start, and it was a lot of aggression coming in from FaZe. Now, obviously, the sides were flipped. FaZe was on the attack, playing fast and catching T1 off guard, but the point remains the same.
It does remain the same, but now he has the operator, so that's going to change the playstyle for Baby Bay, but it's still not going to make things easier for T1. You've seen how good has been on that operator today, and for T1, the amount of times that are trying to add pressure towards the fountain or towards B, it's not paying off because they're just getting picked. They're going to try their hand back towards A, and Marv goes for a smoke and hides on top of it with a dark cover. The Owl Drone Elise is going to spawn him, so they're going to try to spray it out, but there's going to be a counter to come through, and a Hunter's Fury to come out, and it's still going to be Brax that gets the kill. No more tanks, but it's still map advantage, or should I say map control for T1 as they make it into the site and go for the plant. While the retake is attempted, they still have the hat to come out too. And they are now spotted towards U-Haul. Brax is going to try to press forward, but Ruckus slowly is going to even things up, and we'll see if they could work it back. What do they have right now? They have the Allen Drone from Ruckus inside U. They could still use that. They have the powerful operator to go for the trade, and it works out. The advantage swings back in favor of FaZe. Baby Bay gets another one and goes for another kill. What is going on with this man?
He's feeling it. I mean, this is what we saw in map 1. It's almost verbatim. Baby Bay popping off early on. And even though Baby Bay still continued with a very strong stat line, it wasn't anything like this. This is actually a little bit of a step above. 1, they're now up 5-0, so they're winning by even more of a margin than they were before. And 2, Baby Bay has 12 kills. 12 and 3 in 5 rounds. That's an absurd stat line currently, and it's making things quite difficult for T1. Yet again, Baby Bay 2 is going to be that entry killing machine. He's finding all of those opening kills round after round here.
Cover going
And
out.
T1, we talked about how well they play when they played this map. They're going to have to unlock some inner potential, and that might be exactly what they need. Dazed and Braxed both combine and give themselves a 5-on-3, and the spike will go down on the A site.
So the other members of FaZe Clan trying to do a little bit of Baby Bay, but it doesn't pay off for them. So that opens up the site. They are able to get the plant. Baby Bay's still alive though. And with this rotation, you still have the paint shells. A big flame from Corey, but that's only for a 1 kill as he's traded off by Spider. Baby Bay still, as he's feeling himself, he doesn't care. He's gonna try to go for this. Spider is so far his kryptonite. He's been the one that's able to stop the reign of Baby Bay. That's 3 kills in this matchup, on this map actually, Spider is able to win versus Baby Bay. So I think now you're gonna have to try to have that matchup for T1. Let's figure out where Baby Bay is playing now, still probably with the operator, and nullify his positioning. And I think that would probably be one of the keys to try to bring T1 back into this one.
Just looking back at the stats here for T1, the attacking side has always been their bread and butter. In fact, it looks like they haven't lost an attacking side half in the last couple of matches they've played through in the closed qualifiers for both UMG and Nerd Street Gamers. Marv waiting around the corner. Here's that showstopper pop. But it's Brax who's on the site, who's proving to be a nuisance. 3-on-2, and again, the A site's been lost.
Spike planted.
FaZe Clan's sprint at the start of this half may have ended already as T1 looks to grab another round. There's the showstopper being pulled from Corey. Quick flick back with the rocket, dodges the shot from Dazed. And now Corey ends up on top of the APC. Dart not going to connect onto Corey, who's now going to change positions, looking for the remaining targets. And sticks the spike to at least get it halfway. Goes for the pull-off, and it's a double peek. Wouldn't have made a difference which direction he looks. T1 win 2 in a row, and they still have a chance to take that lead at half. They're going to have to win them all.
Yep.
I mean, that is
that
crazy.
was, again...
Like, Cloud9, Immortals, Dignitas, Sentinels, Equinox, even the game against Complexity. On the attacking side, they always won the half. Never tied, never came below that line.
So it's an indication of how things are kind of changing a little bit here in this matchup. They really have to step up for T1. And Skadoodle, again, he's the first one that gets nullified by Baby Bay, but it's still going to be Spider that is that silver lining for the team. To be able to get that opening, and you saw how explosive that was. And there you go, Spider another opening, 2 kills, including Baby Bay on top of that. Yes, of course, FaZe is on an eco. But who cares? As T1, you don't care if they're on guns, no guns, knives. You just want to bring this game back in your favor. So to be able to have somebody like Spider continue to get these openings and be crisp on his shots. And speaking of crisp, that's one way to answer. But at least to get a spike plant for T1. And you'll still have FaZe Clan looking to upgrade for some weapons. And with that last kill that just happened from Brax, I think these last 2 players will attempt to save. Okay, maybe not. Marv gets a kill. He gets another one as he drops inside the window. They're looking for the ult, and they spot the last one. It's going to be Brax. He does get the wall bang, but the defuse is coming through, and they actually get it. Zachary gets the full defuse. Cannot get the kill. Finally, he does for Brax, but man, on an eco that came through for FaZe Clan, it was still a victory in the end. I spoke too soon. I jinxed it. Caster's curse.
Well, what ends up happening is T1 now have at best a tie score at half if they can somehow find a way to close things out. But with the way this team has been playing, I'm not sure how that's possible. Baby Bay cooled off a little bit the last few rounds, but still sitting at an impressive 13-6 as we move into round number 9. And it looks like we have a pause coming in. Skadoodle's not moving. So they got it in just in the nick of time. I'm going to assume this is technical in nature. He's back in the game. He's swinging his knife, but not really sure what exactly is going on. So we'll get that fixed in a moment. The pause came through literally as the blue barriers go down, but they can't walk through them. So in case you're thinking they can like roam the map right now, that's not possible.
So I'll take that time as I was trying to figure out. It seems as though maybe it's Daze that has the issue because he hasn't bought yet. But on that previous round before the action happened and the eco came in for FaZe Clan, I was going to say like the way that T1, the previous round, was able to execute into the A side, it was off Spider's revenge kill onto Baby Bay, but also as soon as he died, you saw how immediate the trade came in from short A. So T1 did a very good job to set up a push where they could go for these immediate trades and eventually take over that site. He's leaving it on a 2 versus 1, losing players in the process on a pulse plan situation. If you still have that one-man advantage in the end, you've had made a successful attempt, a successful push, into your spike plant. So T1, they needed to get that 2 in a row, but FaZe Corey inside that hookah, his playground, to be able to answer back onto Spider. And for me, when I thought that it was over after those 2 guns that were picked up with a spike plant and a dark cover that came out towards hookah, Marv was able to open it up on his own and turn around over for FaZe. I don't think it should have been a round that T1 should have lost after the pulse plant.
Still waiting on a resolution for the technical issue, so we'll be jumping into things in just a second. As soon as Dazed fixes his computer, you know how boomers are. They just... which wire's which? Where does this go?
Hey man, I know which wires
plug
which.
in his floppy drive right now.
I've been playing a lot of Among Us. I know how to cross the wires.
So we'll be jumping into that action shortly. I do want to say this. If this follows the pattern of the last map, what we'll notice in general is T1 adjust to the pace that FaZe is setting early on and try and equalize. So if this continues in similar fashion, we should have a very close game, even though right now it doesn't look like that's likely.
Well, yeah. The thing is for me is, how do you really stop the pacing of Baby Bay when you still kind of have to guess which areas he's rushing as when he doesn't have that operator, right? If they get into a situation here where FaZe is going to lose a round, they're going to be on a mixed buy or some sort of an eco. Baby Bay, which way is he going to go? And from the way that he's shooting, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a Blade Storm into the next round if they lose and have to go on an eco. So the amount of times that he ran down towards long B, he got a 4K out of that one. Then down towards the hookah side, he was able to get to some big rounds as well. I don't know how the hell you stop this guy. Spider is the only solution, but you can only guess where Baby Bay is going, like, onto 4 different areas. So you have 25% of chances to be right and to put Spider at the right spot to try to kill him. So I think now try to utilize those cameras in the beginning too, right? The trap wires at the front to try to prevent those early pushes, put the cameras on different extremities, and then have somebody like Spider try to work that control. When I said that they were successful and how it was different on T1 on their attacker side was, for example, the combination that they had of clearing out the showers so that any type of aggressive opping side that came in from their opponents on that end was fully nullified, and that allowed them to go for that explosive push into the A side. But this round, it seems to be B.
It's always awkward when you have a 1-second pause and then play resumes because you don't see the walls fall. It's just like the round just starts. But here we go. The Owl drones will pass each other. A little bit of drone racing over on the site. Skadoodle, who's currently off to a rough start in the series and this map more specifically, leading off the push for T1. A target right to the left. Oh, Raucus has him right where he wants him. Oh, it got a little scary there for a second. There was an opportunity, but Raucus plays that one patiently, has to double back on the initial damage dealt. And that is a flawless round win from FaZe, where they just stomped out T1.
The kills came fast as the barriers went down pretty much when they tried to enter the site. Not clearing your corners, unfortunately, allowing Zachary to get a 3K on top of that, surprising your opponents. That's not a good look there for that push. And I thought that it was going to be, with them splitting towards B, they had the Hunter's Fury ready for Daze, and someone like Daze or someone like Gangsta really likes to go up towards that B side and just launch the Hunter's Fury inside elbow to surprise your opponent. But instead, they went for the Owl drones. They gave a chance for FaZe Clan to really just set up on any type of push that they had. And again, not clearing your angles is probably the detriment of that round.
Well, yet again, you see the aggression from FaZe. You've already got 2 players pushed through from B, but T1's on the A side, or at least trying to take control of it. Now, Baby Bay getting aggressive with that up in showers, picks off Spider. We talked about how important Spider can be for this T1 roster. Baby Bay likely wanted to play with that smoke, but realizes after the neural theft comes through, it's an illogical decision. Owl drone will put a dart into the planter, giving away his position. And, oh, okay. That's the planter going down. The nade came out. It was a fade away from Corey. I think he threw the nade and they started to rotate, expecting that they might try to take Portal. You can see them actually backing off the play. But the nade gets the kill on the spike planter. They now have to recommit to that site. Brax is right around the corner, takes a shot through the wall from Baby Bay. He's down to 57 HP. This man just does not miss currently. Now that's going to be difficult because he's low on health. Brax is sneaking away inside the showers, tries to peek back, and it all falls down to the 1v1. It's going to be Corey versus Dazed. Another nade coming out from Corey as the paint shells pop. Tapping the spike, knows exactly where Dazed is going to be. FaZe continue here. And that's going to be an 8th round for them on the defense.
I think just from watching how Corey is currently playing, how Baby Bay is currently playing, like you now see that potential that FaZe Clan saw when they picked up this roster. And it's like, man, you guys are starting to make me believe on the potential as well and how dominant they could be once you give them that time. And that 1 versus Daze wasn't easy there for Corey either. I mean, Daze, we didn't talk about him a lot, but on that previous map on Ascent, he was able to drop 200 ADR for the team. So he's been a very big aspect for T1 to try to get these entries, and you wouldn't want anybody else right now is to try to clutch that 1 versus 1. So Corey did a tremendous effort to win that. The wall bangs, of course, is continuous. That seems so confident. It's such a confident playstyle from FaZe Clan is what I'm trying to get to, because he had 2 wall bangs from Baby Bay, And then you had wall bangs that came through from Corey to get a couple of kills as well on that pulse plant for FaZe's retake. So I just love what I'm seeing right now.
Raucus. He's in the back hall as T1's gained site control. It's a 5-on-5. Despite the spike going down, it's full forces for both sides. Showstopper available for both. Corey uses his first, and Daze gets taken out in the corner. Corey very low on HP. Raucus in the backside of sight from Spider, but Raucus is there. It's a back and forth, ping-ponging around, but now it's Raucus all alone. And as he goes for the recon dart peek, Brax is there with the punish. A third round for T1.
Last round in the
An awkward one, but it counts.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you just wanted to change it right away, right? We've talked about it multiple times that it's the slow and steady race for T1. Just go for the explosion now towards that B site. Paid off in their favor. And now they really had the better angles, actually, to hold it back. Yes, of course, they lost one player from Corey's Showstopper towards Hookah, but you still had good split out positionings towards the back of the site, where T1 just caught rotations that's very hard to take back, actually, on B site.
Get out of my way.
On a map like Bind. So a stack towards B is something common that we see. 3 players on the defense. And being able to open that up and not allow the rest of FaZe Clan to rotate from A was definitely well played for T1. So with this last round that they have, though, I think it's an op that I saw that was picked up by Skadoodle in that previous round. I don't know if it was left behind by Baby Bay, but with the style that FaZe has, maybe that could be the answer too. If you have Baby Bay trying to push aggressively, try to find him with the operator, use that long range against him. But if Baby Bay himself has an op, that's where it gets difficult. That said, though, they are trying to work back towards the A side. They do have the paranoia if they want to throw that into the lamps so they could try to push up towards the A site. They don't really have any other ultimates to try to get it in because they depleted on that previous round. Well, on the other end, though, for FaZe, they have their Hunter's Fury that they could play with Raucus on a rotation from spawn side. And there it comes.
Well, there's that ult coming out from Raucus. Oh, he splits the middle of the 2 targets he tagged initially. Had a chance to find a couple of kills there. Zachary, though, will be the first one to strike. Skadoodle with a nice spin back from the op, but it's all coming up FaZe as Marv gets the final one on the round. 9-3 is your halftime score.
Switching sides.
That's one of the worst halves we've seen from T1 in some time on this map. As we look at the closed qualifiers, again, we mentioned it, they never once lost the attacking half. So, disappointing to say the least. Now, I think I do know why. There is a deviation on the scoreboard, and in general, the results from what we expected. Typically, Twitch chat would be funneling their energy with copy pastas towards the teams and players of their choice. I'm not seeing any spam this blaze for FaZe. I definitely haven't seen one damn noodle for Skadoodle. I'm disappointed, Twitch chat. At least you had eggs earlier. Eggs were neutral. It's an egg. Got nothing now. I need to see something, Twitch chat. You're letting me down. 9-3. T1 desperately need to pick up this pistol round, or it's curtains for them. That said, they still qualify for the event, so it's not the end of the world, but they would love to have that higher seed.
And at this point, it just continues. Pushing forward is Baby Bay. He opens up B side, but you saw that double push teleporter. And now they just take control of Hookah back for the defender side. Camera is up, Spike is planted inside Tunacan, but it's still T1 that has the upper hand in terms of manpower on this retake. Spider the first to jump in to try to bait out the shots because he's low on HP. Well, the HP doesn't matter when you're shooting like that. Back on the defuse, T1 stays alive, and, you know, the eggs you were talking about here, Bach, it was at a point where it was about to get boiled. Things were getting hot here for T1, and they're trying to lower down that pressure so that they could come back into this game, and the pistol round that they had is a great way to start.
T1 trying to wake up. It's an early game. Trying to just, like, you know, get the sleepies out of their eyes.
Oh,
shake
off
the early morning. Yeah, I mean, FaZe, it seems like they never went to sleep. They've been awake the whole time. They've been pounding G Fuel all morning long to get themselves prepared for this, especially Baby Bay. I'm going to need that man's sensitivity, his resolution, his mouse pad, keyboard, diet, Exercise
And the
routine,
code.
monitor. I need all of it. Desk. I need to know the square footage of his office. What direction does his PC face? Is that important? Maybe it is. Who knows?
That's Feng Shui.
FaZe.
That's super
Yeah.
important.
FaZe trying to get into Hookah. They're going to have to fight with Brax, who's waiting around the corner. Ready to be judge, jury, and executioner as they try to make their way through. Zachary will actually be the first one to strike. There's the shotgun coming through. Brax is only going to get 2, as T1 is now at a player disadvantage. And the pistols are working out well for FaZe. This is disastrous for T1.
Yeah, it didn't look too well for FaZe to start, though. Brax was at. They still get the advantage of moving into the site, planning and having 3-on-2, but they have 2 players that are very low on HP. Thankfully, though, for T1, they don't have much utilities or weaponry to work with, and the one that had the weapon just died from the hands of Marv. Skadoodle only with the ghost, trying to tap away. Baby Bay was so low, just one little tap. But Baby Bay was able to get the kill with the Spectre, so we turn it around. We get an eco for FaZe onto T1. T1 back themselves, back against the wall, back where they have to go with pistols themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if we go for a force buy here.
They're a little bit slow if they're going to do it. I mean, you can see AZK's bought armor, but yeah, there's some expenditures coming out. Sheriffs, but no armor. And with Skadoodle having a little bit of money, they're actually going to fall back a little bit and try and stack that up for an op buy later. We'll see if they can hit their shots here. They go for a triple push on short. The boombot comes out, and Corey's just able to capitalize. That's 3 kills for Corey. A little bit of jiggle at the end there.
That's all I'm hearing and seeing there. Just and he just drive-bys 3 people.
The bot was the entry fragger. He was the follow-up. As the entry bot went down, he just cleans up. FaZe Clan make a quick round out of T1. Skadoodle does have the op. This is what we were talking about. But again, it's an attacking side op. Baby Bay also has the ult available, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Baby Bay try and charge somewhere with that Spectre and just fly in with the knives out.
I could see it. Blade Storm, try to go long range with the knives at the showers, and once he gets close enough, right clicks, or Spectre on mid range.
I also
So
think
it's
I
going to be him
misspoke.
versus Spider.
I think I said misspoke because of the colors on the scoreboard. That's my mistake.
Yeah.
For Skadoodle, he is on the defense. Don't want to confuse people any more than I'm already confused. But it's actually Baby Bay to pop that ult and fly into the site, trying to get into that B site, trying to push up aggressively, catching one off guard, and it's Brax who gets diced apart through his cyber cage, so that digital wall can't slow down the knives. And it's a push that comes through successfully for FaZe. T1 again, short-handed on the defense, and good lord. Zachary is surgical with the Vandal. Baby Bay now wants the last kill on the round. Skadoodle says, well, at least I can try and prove who's the better Jet in the 1v1, kinda. Ends up tying Demarv. 12-4 FaZe Clan.
Match point.
Likely going to end things here as the buy coming through from T1 is going to be abysmal.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was as confused as you with the scoreboard there, Buck. I had the idea that it was actually going to be the showers and long play from Baby Bay and from Brax, but it turned out to be Skadoodle and Zachary. Pretty much the same thing, but it was still the same result. You still had Baby Bay just being very aggressive towards the B side, and he gets the first kill onto Brax towards B instead. And, you know, just continuing to hold W on their end is going to be the strong point for FaZe Clan. Showstopper to look down. T1's trying to fight back with whatever they can. It's Guardians, it's Judges, it's a good luck. Definitely a good luck at this point. And Baby Bay, they open up towards the site. You already have from the shadows at spawn. What is Brax looking at? His death. Headshot it now by Marv. Marv continuing to push spawn. A second kill onto Spider, so a 5 versus 2. We're looking to seal the deal at a 13-4.
It's down to just one more player. It's Daze, and he's trying to do what he can, but it's not going to be enough. FaZe Clan surprises us all with a big 2-0 win over top of T1. An impressive series from the side of FaZe. T1 disappointed, but again, both teams have already qualified for the NA regional event with Riot, so at least there's that. This was not a match that would necessarily see T1's hopes eliminated. It was just a seeding game. Chat, the game's over. Now we can kill all our spams, our copy pastas, and go back to talking about eggs, which is what truly matters.
So I wanted to say, you know, there was 2 victories there and there were 2 losses. All right. First and foremost, the obvious, obviously, is FaZe getting that victory and T1 taking the L. FaZe showed up. I'm not going to lie. So the GP and the parents, unfortunately, will still remain disappointed. Hopefully we can be right, though, when it comes to the next prediction. And then, of course, the other win was for you, Bach, with Twitch chat, because you just defeated our poor mods who just can't keep up with Spam This Noodle for Skadoodle. So 2 little battles taking place there, and, of course, 2 losers, 2 winners. There you go. Take your bow because you deserved it. Hey, check it out. You know, real talk. FaZe just played insane. You know, you guys were talking about just that big performance from Baby Bay. I was like, this isn't going to end well for T1. As soon as I, you know, obviously witnessed Baby Bay come out, is it right here? I think getting the gets to 3, eventually gets to 4, just shy of getting the 5 because Spider said absolutely not. So with that being said, man, FaZe, they did everything right. You know, what are some of those things, Ben Silly? What are some of the things they did right other than just simply slaying out?
That's it. That's all you need. Sometimes, like I said, you could be as preparing to a matchup as you want, but if you're just feeling it, some strats could just go out the window and you're just going to be fragging out. I mean, in French, I like to say it's n'importe quoi. It's just bizarre in terms of a matchup that I've seen between these 2 teams. And I guess it's just because of the level of comfort that I saw that FaZe was able to execute today. And to see Baby Bay and Corey do what they're able to do, it was just so hard for T1 to win that in the end.
Yeah, Bach, I'm looking at the stats right now. Baby Bay, 21-11, just about double positive as he was on that earlier Ascent map. Obviously, that went the distance, 14-12. This time, it did not. In terms of first blood, something we talked about, they weren't able to capitalize. 5 first bloods for Baby Bay, most in the lobby once again. In fact, if you look at T1 stats, the only one who went positive was Brax. He was the only one that went positive on Ascent too. So, you know, a big difference, right, in terms of overall stats when it comes to the overall slaying power to slaying ability. I don't know, man. There's really not a lot to say other than FaZe. I mean, they just pulled up today and they pulled off a big upset, I would say, because, I mean, T1 was heavily favored.
Yeah, I mean, Baby Bay had, what, like 52 total kills across the series, and you said he had, what, 5 more, so that's 13 entry kills out of those 52. That's a pretty impressive ratio from, you know, opening kills to just total kills in general, but just the sheer number of what both of those numbers are. Skadoodle never stood a chance. If you actually looked at that second map, I think Skadoodle was bottom of the scoreboard at one point, like 2 and 8 in that first half. He was not having a good time. He could never really get his money right because the few times that we saw Ska get the op in his hands, he was losing a battle 1v1 against Baby Bay. We saw that on Ascent as well. I remember the earliest op we got out of Skadoodle on the attacking side, Baby Bay played off Cat, and it just instantly killed him. And that was like, okay, well, there goes that. That's not going to work. Or then we saw Ska try and dash down mid with an ult, picked off by a dash away and a quick scope from Baby Bay. The quick scope was actually the most impressive part of Baby Bay's performance. I was actually disappointed by his stationary op skills. I feel like when he held an angle and waited, that was when he was more likely to miss. It was when he just quick scoped and just put 2 and 2 together and he managed to make it work. That was what was really impressive. And that was what was brutal for T1. They could not seem to catch him off guard because he was just so fast on the reaction.
Yeah, that too, and how FaZe was able to control the economy for T1. As you said here, Bach, you know, Skadoodle didn't have many chances to get the operator, and it's normal when you have a scoreline of like a 5-0 or 6-1, where it's usually around that moment where your operator comes out for the first time. And if you're actually still going to lose that gun round, then you're going to have to save 1 or 2 more rounds until you bring that op again. And then once it starts getting like 9-1, 10-1 or whatever, you've brought out the op only twice, max 3 times into the half, and you're not able to carry it or make any impact with it. It definitely shows that the result is just going to be that one-sided affair that we saw.
I mean, like you mentioned the quickscoping. Come on, would it be FaZe without the quickscope? I don't think it would be, right? So he's definitely living up to the FaZe name, okay? So Baby Bay, especially on Ascent too, getting that quickscope all the way on heaven, like it's just disgusting. Bottom line period, though, you know, I know we're going to be doing an interview in just a second, but I have to ask because it's one of the questions I'm going to be asking during the interview. Do you think the inconsistencies from before during the open qualifiers have now been kind of nullified or equaled out, if you will, based on the performances, not only yesterday versus Genji, but also today?
Whew. No. And I'll explain why. I don't think that FaZe looked as good yesterday as they do today, which shows me that there still is a higher potential for them. So FaZe looked fantastic today against T1. Yesterday against Gen G, it was a little sloppy. I mean, it goes into overtime on that third and final map, and they end up winning that series. There's a very likely reality where this is Gen G playing against T1. We're talking about a matter of 1 or 2 rounds going a different way, and Gen G is in this position, not FaZe. So I'm not necessarily going to say that FaZe played poorly, but I still think that FaZe has to work out some of the kinks. So I think consistency is still going to be a problem for this team, especially because of their playstyle. I mean, if you watch those last 2 maps, their playstyle is literally just like holding W. It's a lot of aggressive plays. It's Baby Bay feeling that confidence. When you're not hitting your shots, that's not going to work. So ultimately, if that's what they want to lean on, they're going to put too much pressure and too much emphasis on individual performance, and it's going to fall like a house of cards.
I think from T1's perspective too, or any other team in general at this level right now, is that when you have a player that continues to hold W like that, technically he's not able to put 2 kills, 3 kills like he did. Even Corey, we saw a couple of rounds where he was able to drive by, or 1 round where he was able to drive by in that short A with that Spectre and get a 3K himself. Technically, at that level, when you only have 3 players there, even though it's pistols, you should be good enough to go for the trade. So I think on top of that, as much as we praise and we see how good it was for for FaZe, for T1, it was just a lack of oomph that wasn't there. They weren't there to play, definitely, for T1. I was a little bit more disappointed to see their result and their play style versus what I saw for T1 when they qualified into First Strike yesterday.
Well, so something I want to tag on here. With the way that FaZe just playing that fast and aggressive style, even on the defense, they never let T1 play the style they like to play, which is slow and methodical. When you're constantly forcing fights early on, they're kind of like, well, wait, why are you here already? Like, typically, T1 was a 20-second execute team. Again, we've called them like the Na'Vi of North American Valorant, because Na'Vi back in the day in Counter-Strike was notorious for these 10 and 15-second executes onto his site. Literally taking it to the last possible second, to the extent that if you encounter someone on the site and they kill your spike planner, that's it. The round might end right there. So they were never allowed to actually play that style because they were consistently losing a player early on in the round, maybe even 2. The way that Baby Bay was playing aggressive, he would get that first kill and he'd be like, that's not enough. I want 1 more. I want 1 more, and another, and another, and another. He would keep trying to force the issue further forward. And even though that ended up being his demise occasionally, it worked out way too often for him. More often than not, he was just feeling it today, and he was able to come out on top. If he's missing those shots, T1 very likely could have won this series because of the fact that they were putting so much on his shoulders. Now, yeah, sure, there's follow-up players. You've got Corey, who's also hitting his shots. So you can always say, well, Corey can go in and do his thing with the rifle. But the way that he was playing was what was making the rounds that much more difficult for T1. And I think if he's not necessarily connecting on that level, things fall apart a lot differently for them.
All right. Well, hey, look, I want a chance to speak with FaZe. We have that opportunity with Raucus. Let's go ahead and bring him in and just pick his brain a little bit. A lot of questions I have for you, Raucus. First and foremost, congrats on that victory over T1, because I'm not going to lie, we were all, kind of not rooting against FaZe, but we all thought T1 had the leg up. So let's break it down, Raucus. How are you feeling first and foremost, and what do you attribute that victory to?
I'm feeling good, but I'm feeling really tired. We're not used to waking up this early.
Raucus, do I need you unmuted on Discord?
Gotcha.
Or at least I don't hear him. Is that normal for me?
Hear me?
There you go.
go.
What's up? What's up?
Okay.
It's way too early for us, in general. It's 9 or 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And we're used to waking up at 12 or 1, so we're feeling a bit off. Honestly, it was actually good. We treated this map or match, because it's important because you have seeding. And seeding is important, but we treated this match like a scrim. And we felt really comfortable with the last map, and we were just kind of fighting. We didn't really we played to our natural state kind of, which is less of thinking about what they're doing and more what we want to do. So it worked in our favor, I think.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. You said less of thinking about, what they're going to do and more what you want to do. And that kind of leads up to another question. T1, obviously, Bach and Vansili's been talking about it. They have a very passive play style, but they're very aggressive right in those last couple of seconds. But it seems as if you guys were overly aggressive at times. Was that to kind of counter the passiveness of T1, or did honestly that have no effect? Like you said, you just mentioned, you weren't even trying to think about what they were doing.
Honestly, only some teams make us like really change our style. We played against T1 a bunch, and honestly, like what we've shown in tournaments doesn't reflect on us as a team. And I think that's like it's kind of good because people think that we're like underdogs or worse than we are right now, but like we know that we've really underperformed in like matches right now. But like we're slowly getting into a rhythm. Like for us, we were used to playing like on stage in another game, but this game's like a different beast. It's like way different to compete. So like we had to get used to this kind of competition round by round. It's like way different, but like we're getting more and more comfortable as we go on. It's going to keep snowballing, I think. But we weren't really making any changes directly for T1. We were just trying to play our game, and that's it. So.
I got a question for
Yep.
you.
Yep.
How important has Marv been when you talk about your adaptation from one game to another? Marv obviously coming in from a 5v5 slow-paced competitive shooter. Has that been, a vital piece to you guys kind of getting adjusted and acclimated into Valorant?
Yeah. So Jimmy or Marv, he comes from CS, and we've all played CS, but not like to the level he has obviously.
Mhm.
He showed us like a lot, like how to default, how to play slow, how to think about like the game, like timing, rotations, and stuff like that. He brought like a lot of good stuff to us, and like he's definitely like a really important part, especially like in game. He like calls like rotations. He'll be like he understands like where people are on the map, especially like on attack. He'll like know when a site's free just to walk in and stuff like that. He's definitely like a really underrated player. So.
And then for me, just looking at the matchup versus T1 as well, usually I see you guys and we all praise you guys for having such a great bind play. So what was the tactic choosing Ascent over bind just to make sure that you had that going through, or betting split? What was the map process there for you guys?
Honestly, this is the honest to God answer. When it's really early in the morning, we don't get warm-up scrims, so we want to play a map that's more defaulty and like less aim dually. Ascent is like by far the most default map. There's like usually no aim duels at the very start. It's like shoot dart here, smoke here, find out info. Like you will always ban if we don't have a warm up, we're like banning Haven first, so you don't have to like fight instantly. Like it's like a real it's just a way for us to warm up slowly. So
it's your coffee. It's your
kind
egg.
of.
Breakfast.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's funny that you say that, but at the same point in time, Baby Bay was literally like taking fights almost initially every round. He mentioned it, but like on Ascent, he had 8 first bloods. He was constantly peeking. What did he eat for breakfast? Because like I want to make sure I eat that every morning.
This was like the first time he said it like mid-match on Bind. Like we were just like we randomly went around and he was like, maybe I'm just gonna wake up like an hour before the match and just not warm up and just play. Because like he doesn't like you don't sacrifice sleep schedule and stuff like that. And that's like actually like a big thing when you have to wake up this early. Like it's really hard just like push your schedule back like an extra hour or two. So yeah, it's maybe that's a trick. I don't know. I have to ask him. But he's feeling it today. He was feeling it today. He took over.
He looks good, man.
Yeah.
Maybe the trick is literally just to wake up an hour before every match. It doesn't matter what time it is, because clearly it's working out whatever he was doing. So I want to bring it back all the way to the open qualifiers, right? Because I think a lot of people were very surprised, especially in the UMG Open qualifier, number 1, that you guys had a couple of chances to make it, and you guys didn't. But then all of a sudden now you're here and you've qualified for regional finals. Was there any play style differences? Obviously, you mentioned, there's very few teams that, you change your overall play style around, but what was, kind of going on then versus now? Why you weren't successful then, but you're successful now? Like, have anything changed in the overall mindset?
So like us as a team, we're trying to only scrim. There's really no tier 1 or tier 2 teams right now. I feel like that, but we're only trying to like focus on like signed teams, so we considered them tier 1, and we really underrated like all the other teams. And like we got surprised by like the underrated teams in the first qualifier, and that was like really bad on us because like we should have been practicing against all those teams because they all have completely different styles, and you could tell like all these teams are playing so well against each other. So for the second round, we practiced against every team. We got like a lot more experience against other teams. Plus like the first qualifier, we honestly like weren't we haven't like really played to our like full level yet because like let's call it nerves or call it like that we're playing a little bit scared or something like that, but. It's slowly getting better and better each tournament, and we could tell easily. Like the FAZE Invitational, from FAZE Invitational to now, we're like a completely different team. But it's just understanding what other teams want to do, practicing is like the range, like the mass majority of teams, and just like finding out what style like each team has, and understanding how to play against every style. Because we didn't have the understanding how to play against every style until recently. So.
I got another question for you. You come from a game that has, a similar structure in that you have abilities plus obviously aim and weapons and all that. How different is it for you though to adapt to playing a game where you can't change your agent mid-game? So depending on like the scenario, like if you're back against the wall, you still have to stick with what you've got. And how difficult was that for you to kind of get used to? Because you know we obviously see in other games. I'm not going to say which game it is. You guys can figure it out on your own. Other games, you know, you can kind of adjust and make changes mid-game if things aren't working for you. Like how has that dynamic been? How has it been adjusting as a player coming in from one of those titles?
So I think the harder thing to adjust to, not necessarily about changing like the agents and stuff like that, being able to adapt, but was like, not like if you die, you're out of the round completely. And it's like a new round. Because like in the game I played, if you died, you respawn in 6 seconds. So you could just keep dying and respawning. And it's just like, basically having the focus for 2 full minutes straight is way different. Because like in the game I played, like you could focus and then unfocus and focus and unfocus. Like it wasn't like a full, you have to pay attention to every second, exactly what everyone's doing. Because like every round matters and stuff like that. So it's definitely a different style of like playing and like competing, but it's the game itself. Like there's a lot of things that we can apply from like I guess like us Overwatch players can apply a lot to Valorant, like for ability usage and stuff like that. And it's more of like getting used to the timings and the gun duels and stuff like that. But we all played games similar to this, so we're I think we're slowly getting into it. So.
One more thing about that. Do you feel like you have something extra that you have to prove? Because obviously the community has been hypercritical of players coming from that title versus players coming in from games like Counter-Strike. Do you feel like you have a lot to prove?
Everyone wants to be able to show what they have, but personally I don't feel pressure because I know why I'm here. And like if I look at like outside perspectives and like I feel the pressure on that, it's just gonna make me play worse. But like I understand why they have I understand why they want to like say that this genre needs to play well, because if not, then it's just like, I'm going to do my thing, and we're going to do our thing, and we're going to play how we want to play, and that's it. If we do well, we do well. If we, you know, that's what it's going to be. I'm not going to listen to other people say.
Love that.
All right. Well, I guess just 2 quick more questions for you. Obviously, regional finals, you qualified. Good job on you. Who are you most worried about, and who are you least worried about in terms of playing on in December?
I'm not going to include who I'm least worried about, because that's kind of like toxic, and I'm not.
Okay, fair enough.
Actually, honestly, like I'm not really worried. We're not really worried about like any team, but we just want to play the best. So we want to play like TSM, we want to play Sentinels, we want to play Envy, we want to play like all the top teams right now, like no matter what. Like we want to play them first, to be honest. We'd rather play the best teams instantly and then get rid of it. Maybe we should have lost so we could have played the best team, but you know, we'll play everyone and we'll get through it. So.
That's
All
awesome.
right, fair enough. Well, you guys are already sitting in grand finals, awaiting your opponent between TSM and Immortals. I guess I'll hold that other question off for a little bit later, maybe after you guys are. Or check it out, guys. We are, in fact, going to be moving on to our next series. It's going to be a good one. TSM and Immortals. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.